Hello, so today we will analyze round 4 of the Philippine Amateur Chess Championship. I'm playing with white this time, and I played the move e4. Uh, and here my opponent plays c5. After c5, I play knight to c3, the typical move I always play here against the Sicilian. And after d6, I play f4, known as the Grand Prix attack. And my opponent plays g6 here, and I play knight to f3, bishop to g7, bishop to c, and here I play bishop to c4. My opponent here plays e6 here, and here I play a mistake. I play the move castles. Now this is a mistake yet. Not really much of a mistake, but d4 immediately is a really good move here. I missed this, and when I checked with the engine, d4 is apparently really good here, because after something like knight takes d4, white is just opening up the center with really active pieces here, opening up the d file. They have 3 pieces developed with black's 1. So yeah, d4 was definitely the move I should have played, but here I played castles here, which is not really a mistake, but here, knight d7, this is where the real mistake is, d3. And d3 here is just not good. I had the opportunity to play d4, but instead I played d3. After this move, my opponent plays knight bc6 here, and their whole plan is to maybe play d5 or even potentially f5. And they're just gonna push the pawns here, limit the bishop, and they're gonna get a very nice game. I play a3, to just have some escape square for the bishop. If ever knight to a5 comes in, or I don't know, like d5, maybe a6, b5. So I just create an escape square. My opponent plays here, a6 here, and I played queen to e1, trying to go for the typical Grand Prix attack with queen h4, knight g5, and then like g4, f5, but it's not very good. After the move b5, and they're starting to get some activity on the queen side here. After b5 here, I decided to play bishop to b3. Bishop to a2 is much better. Why? Why is bishop to a2 better than bishop to b3? Well, because in some of these positions, in the future, there's going to be knight to a5 coming in with tempo. And let's say the c-pawn exchanges itself with the d-pawn. It's gonna be even worse, because now they get the c5, the c4 square, hitting everything. And they're gonna have, and then let's say these 2 pawns are moved. Alright, both C and D pawns. Basically, this move will come in with tempo. Bishop has to drop back, and then the knight just enjoys this square over here. So that's why bishop to a2 was better. Now, there are a lot of mistakes in this game, but I've learned from these mistakes. So yeah, my opponent plays bishop to b7 here, typical to their Sicilian defense here, just developing pieces normally. And here I decided to play queen to, not queen to g3. I play knight to e2 actually. And the idea is that I want to get out of these tempos with when they push the pawns after like something like b4 or something, so it doesn't come in with tempo. My opponent here plays h6 here, and actually I do find the key move here, c3. Now c3 is a very good move here because they have a very strong bishop. So what if I limit it? And also, even though it's weakening some of the queen side light scores here, like c4 and b3 here, I can just exchange them with the bishop. The bishop can control these squares if this d-pawn ever moves. And overall, now I can develop the bishop to e3 safely, instead of this on the previous variation, because if I had gone here, they just take this pawn. And after something like, rook b1, they just drop the bishop back, and they're just a clean pawn up. But anyway, I play c3 here, and here my opponent plays rook ac8, putting the rook on the c file. And here, the engine says that bishop to a2 is the best move here. Once again, getting out of this tempo, as I had said earlier, which is why bishop to a2 was better. I think this position would be better if we go into the same variation with like this and then this and then this, and then this. I think this position would be slightly better, because now after rook c8, now we have the same position, but I get an extra move here. And as you can see, it does give a better evaluation. After something like bishop d3, I didn't have to waste the tempo, but I had to in this game because I did not play that. And here I play, after rook c8, queen to g3. And the idea is to pin this pawn and maybe try to play for f5 and try to open up my bishop here. So that's my idea. Try to start attack. And here the engine recommends d5 for my opponent. Idea being that they're just going to limit my bishop. This is their common idea, to limit the bishop here. And after I played queen to g3, they played queen to c7 first. Basically, putting the queen on the c file here and putting a lot of pressure, preventing b4 in the future because this pawn will hang. Excuse me. And also, when they play d5, now I can't play f5 because then let's just play some random move, and if I try to go for f5, they can try to exchange queens in some positions. So after queen to c7, I develop the bishop to e3, and here my opponent castles. And here, the best move is queen to h3 here. Getting off of this diagonal, maybe playing knight to h4 next, and then f5. But instead, I played the move knight to h4. And knight to h4 here isn't really good because of the move d5. But actually, you hang this pawn here after this move d5. But, black is actually winning because if I go into this line with knight to a5 after bishop takes, queen takes c7, and then let's say I play bishop to c2 after takes, yes, I'm up a pawn, but black here gets a lot of compensation after something like rook fd8, where yes, I can play f5, but the engine will just say g5 and then play this position where black just gets a lot of compensation for the lost pawn. Black will be really active here. So, but my opponent didn't want any of that and decided to just play, before playing d5 first, they played the move c4. But the engine gives this an evaluation of me being up a pawn. But, we're playing without the evaluation. I think I'm actually worse here because of the weak squares on queen side. But anyway, I play bishop to c2 and giving them the option to take. But here, what I really want is after they play the move d5, I play e5. And my dream here is to play d4 next move, and then just try to start an attack on the king side here, locking the queen side, locking the center, and then I just start my attack. And in the game after bishop c2, they indeed play d5. So I play e5. But they play c takes d3, the best move. The engine also says d4 in... What is this weird pawn sacrifice? Knight takes and knight d5. Now that's pretty interesting, I guess. That's what the engine says. But here I played e5. After e5, my opponent here played c takes d3 to exchange the pawn. And after bishop takes d3, they play the move knight to a5 here. Now they're preparing to take some squares over knight to c4 or knight to b3. So I decided to play knight to d4 here to prevent the infiltration on the square on b3. But now they can go knight to c4. And the move I had to find here was the insane move rook ae1, sacrificing the pawn. After knight takes b2, I have bishop takes g6. Now that is crazy, because if you take with the pawn, then there's knight takes g6, and you're taking the exchange maybe, or even potentially the bishop. And if you take with the knight, then there after knight takes g6, pawn takes, then knight takes e6, and after queen to f7, queen to f7. I'm just following the engine line here. Apparently f5, not even taking the exchange, is better. But there's just takes here, and even though the position is two pieces for the rook here, white is better because of the king safety here. The king is very weak, so that is why the position is better for white. But anyway, after knight to c4, I played the move rook to f2 to defend this, offering them the opportunity to take. And after this move, I thought I blundered here. I thought I blundered knight takes b2, which is exactly what happens in the game. Because if I go rook takes, then there's queen takes c3, and I'm completely losing here. Like, if I try to defend the rook, then the bishop hangs, and I'm just worse here since I'm down 2 pawns. But after thinking for like 2 minutes, I spotted bishop takes g6, a counter sacrifice. But after knight to c4, I actually thought they were better, because I saw after bishop to d3, which is what I play in the game, my opponent trades and then I take. I didn't really see a good way to exploit the fact that their king is very weak. And they just play queen takes, and now they're up a pawn. And while I was playing this game, I decided to play rook af1 after they took the pawn. I thought I was worse because I'm down a pawn, and there's no real good way to attack the king here. I thought, because my queen has to stay defending these 2 pieces, which is annoying. So, after rook af1, my opponent plays rook fe8. And during this time, I had 40 minutes. My opponent had 50. And I took 20 minutes on my next turn. And I decided here to play the move f5. Now, the engine doesn't like this move, because the engine says rook c2 first, and then after queen to a5, then f5. And this is better, because now the queen doesn't have to stay defending these 2 pieces in the other line where the queen was on c3. But the reason why I took 20 minutes on this turn was because I was calculating other potential options here, like maybe, I can try to trap the queen. I didn't really see anything, and I decided to conclude that maybe f5 is the best try here. My opponent simply plays e takes f5, knight h takes f5, and after knight takes f5, I take the knight here. Note that I can't take like this, because then that just hangs the queen. And here they played, what did they play again? Rook takes e5. Yeah, they played rook takes e5 indeed. And here I had to find queen to f4. Crazy move. Queen to f4. And if you take the free bishop, then after knight takes g7, you're getting cooked. Because let's say you defend with rook e7, then there's just knight f5. And your king is extremely weak here. And even though you're up like 2 pawns, I have 2 rooks on the f file, and a queen and a knight against 1 rook and 1 queen defending. And you can't really say the queen is defending the king here, because it's blocked by the knight. But anyway, after this, I played knight takes h6, which is still better for white, but it's more complicated. And after bishop takes h6, I play queen takes h6. Here my opponent plays queen takes d3, and pause the video to evaluate why, even though rook takes f7 looks very appealing, you're just threatening checkmate everywhere. How do you stop it? Well, you can pause the video to find the black's only resource here. So if you pause the video, the move is queen to e3 check. And you're offering a queen trade here, and it's defended by the rook. And now you have to take, and after takes, I didn't like this endgame very much because black here has some advantage after takes. You know, there isn't really a clear way how to play here because they have 3 different passed pawns. And I didn't really like this. So after queen takes d3, I played the move queen to f6, forking the rook and the pawn. And if you go here, then there's queen takes e7. And what my opponent played in the game was queen to d3. And this is important. Queen to d4 is significantly worse because I can just easily take, and then I can just take this. And here my opponent plays queen to e3, and this is an important move because it pins the rook to the king. And here I just had to play king h1, and I would actually be better here because there's not a clear way on how to defend this position. And even though I'm down a full piece here, the engine says I'm better, and it says I'm up a pawn. Crazy, right? They have to play something like rook f8, and then maybe just rook f3 is very strong. And then, what? After queen to g5, rook g3, takes. And we are in exchange up, because we have queen for 2 rooks, and then the bishop here. So all I had to do was play king to h1, but instead I played the mistake queen takes f7, and this is suddenly leading to not such a clear position. And here my opponent plays king to h8, and here I noticed that if I take, then now they have this move rook f8, and suddenly I'm completely losing because they played queen to e3, the rook is pinned to the king, so I can't take the free rook. And they're putting too much pressure here, and there's like no way here to win at all. No way to save the rook, I mean. So yeah, taking is not possible. And again, I missed the move king to h1 since I was really low on time, because I thought a while here for the move knight takes h6. It took me like 10 minutes to play this move, and then I was pretty low on time here. So I didn't find king to after queen to f6. I didn't find king to h1 again. So instead I played queen to f7, check. And after king to h8, we both agreed on a draw here. And I was happy with this because I thought I was worse, but now that I'm looking at it, you know, not really, but you know, a draw is a draw, and I'll take it. Definitely a weird game. It all came from this mistake d3 here. Next time I would play d4, and after takes. If you take like this, then I just have 3 pieces developed. So yeah, that is round 4, and that is actually day 2. Day 2 of the tournament. On the second round, there will be a third round on the same day, and I'll show that tomorrow. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye.